Hello YouTube, and welcome to another Yu-Gi-Oh! Review. Now this isn't on any of my decks, but this is on the new Onslaught of the Fire King structure deck and what it contains. And as you can see here, you got the deck mat. Just pretty awesome. Now I will go through and explain basically what this deck does and the good things about this deck and what you can make with it. So here's the Onslaught of the Fire King structure deck map. You got the boss monster right here on this side, and on this side you have two of the other Fire King cards, which are essential to the deck and the way it runs. Now there are four Fire King, well there are a total of 4 Fire King avatar monsters. 2 you get in the deck, the other 2 you have to purchase out of the new packs coming out. So I'll just do the review on my Yu-Gi-Oh! Actual Legendary Collection 3 booster box cardboard mat. So the best card in the deck that it comes with is Fire King High Avatar Garunix. Now this guy is the absolute greatest because his effect goes like this. During the next standby phase, after this card was destroyed by a card effect and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon this card from the graveyard. When you do, destroy all other monsters on the field. When this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon 1 Fire King monster from your deck, except Fire King High Avatar Garunix. So what that means is, if this card is destroyed by a card effect, which there are many cards in this deck that do just that, you can get Garunix on the field rather easily, destroy all your opponent's cards, and go for a 2700 beat down. Now, this being the strongest monster that comes in the deck, there are a lot of booster cards that can help this deck. You can run it with Wavels, Flamvels, Volcanics. You can run this deck with some other fire decks and do just that. So now, this next card, you get 1 in each deck, and it is Fire King Avatar Kirin. Now what he does is, if a face-up Fire King monster you control is destroyed by a card effect, except during the damage step, you can special summon this card from your hand. If this card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can send 1 fire monster from your deck to the graveyard. So now what that does is, this can be destroyed and sent to the graveyard at any time, and its effect activates, unlike the other Fire King monsters, the other Fire King monster that comes in the deck, which I'll show you in a minute. But you send a fire monster from your deck to the graveyard, and that brings you multiple opportunities to summon them, and so on and so forth, which this would count as destroying Garunix, because that would be destroyed by a card effect. Oh, well, it would... Yeah. Actually, I don't know if that would work if you have Kirin destroyed and then summon that. I don't know if that works. You'll have to look that up. But I was on the Dueling Network and I was facing a guy who actually was using the Fire King deck, and it's a really good deck. Really strong, powerful assortments, and a lot of good cards that come with it, especially for if you're going to use a Flamvel deck, Laval deck. Well, a Laval deck in particular, because there's a specific card in here that helps out that archetype tremendously. So this is Fire King Avatar Barong. If a face-up Fire King monster you control is destroyed by a card effect, except during the damage step, you can special summon this card from your hand. So just like Kirin, but it's an 1800 beat stick, which is good. During the next standby phase, after this card is destroyed by a card effect and sent to the graveyard, add 1 Fire King card from your deck to your hand, except for Fire King Avatar Barong. So this has to be destroyed by card effect and not just sent to the graveyard in general like Kirin. So this, instead of discarding a fire monster to the graveyard, it adds it to your hand. So you can add Garunix to your hand, or the Sacred Phoenix of Nephthys, which you also get in the deck, but I'm sure you guys have already seen that and know what it does, so I'm not going to go over that. Now, in this deck, you also get these guys. You get 1 of them, and that is Low-Volt Landlord. Now, I just put the 3 of them together because I got a few of them. I got 2 from card packs, and then the 2 from the decks, because I bought 2 of these structure decks, so yeah. And if you put these together, it kind of works. Especially since they're huge beat sticks and have low defense, which I'll explain later. So you can normal summon this card without tributing. If you do, during the end phase, send it to the graveyard. When this card on the field is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can target one of your banished fire monsters and add that target to your hand. Really good for some strategies, but it's a strong beat stick, so that's why it came with the deck. There is some banishing going on with the deck, but not a whole lot of ways to bring it back. So that kind of is a bit of a problem. But this deck also has a lot of other ways to bring cards back, so that's not really an issue. So next card that comes with it is Neo Flamvell Saber. While your opponent has 4 or less cards in their graveyard, this card gains 600 attack. While your opponent has 8 or more cards in their graveyard, this card loses 300 attack. So it can become a very powerful 2100 beat stick right off the bat of the game. So really good for getting power monsters out. Also, you can use it for a good level 4 Xyz monster, and it can also be summoned from the graveyard later on by another one of the very special cards that came with this deck that is just such an awesome card. So you also get this guy, Flamvell Poon. When this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, add 1 monster with 200 defense from your deck to your hand. Now, a lot of the cards that come in this deck have 200 defense or lower, such as one of the main power monsters in this deck, which you'll also see. It is a Hezi Flame monster, which is new, so that is kind of an interesting thing, which I'll show you. It comes with Flamvell Firedog. When this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, you can special summon 1 fire monster from with 200 or less defense from your deck, except Flamvell Firedog. So this gets you a lot of your monsters that come in this deck on the field, and it's a 1900 beat stick, and also they're both level 4, so really good for getting a Xyz monster out. Plus, some of the cards that come in the deck are level 4s that you can special summon via that effect. So if you want like a number 32 Shark Drake, or like C39 Utopia, like not C39 Utopia, but like number 25 Utopia, be really good. So this is the Hezi Flame Hippogriff. 2100 beat stick, 200 defense. Your opponent cannot target this card with card effects. Once per turn, you contribute 1 other fire monster, and this card gains 200 attack. So you can power this guy up a lot, and with its effect, you get your graveyard full for some of the other support cards that are made for this type of deck. And so it's really good to have him out, tribute other monsters, get some stuff in the graveyard. This is Volcanic Counter. When you take battle damage with this card in your graveyard, banish it from your graveyard. Then, if there is a fire monster other than Volcanic Counter in your graveyard, inflict damage to your opponent equal to the amount of battle damage you took. So, this does a lot of damage, and once again, adds fodder to your graveyard. And for having stuff in the graveyard, it deals damage to your opponent for that card, or for the damage you take. So, really good for damaging them. Then you get 2 Volcanic Rocket, which adds, when it's summoned, you can add 1 Blaze Accelerator from your deck to your hand. Now, Blaze Accelerator, I didn't really see why it was added into this structure deck, because there's not a lot of monsters that have 200 or 500 attack or less with the deck, so I've kind of found that a bit of a problem, because you don't really have very many low power monsters in these kind of decks. But came with these, and it destroys cards if you do tribute, if you do discard a pyro type monster. that has 500 attack or less, so it can be effective if you're using a low point. Now these two cards right here are absolutely beast for any kind of fire deck. Rekindling. You guys should all know what that does, and in case you don't, special summon from your graveyard as many fire monsters as possible, 200 defense. During your end phase, banish all monsters that were special summoned by this effect. So basically, this is the fire version of... This is the fire version that's used for Flamvels and Fire Kings to bring an entire full field of monsters from your graveyard. That is the equivalent to one of the Crystal Beast cards. I don't remember the name of it, sadly, so that's kind of a disappointment. But destroyed the entire opponent's... Well, but the Crystal Beast version destroys the entire opponent's field, and you can summon as many as possible, as many Crystal Beasts as possible from your graveyard. So I thought that was really cool. You also get 2 of these. Circle of the Fire Kings. Target 1 fire monster you control and 1 fire monster in your graveyard. Destroy that monster you control, and if you do, special summon that other monster from your graveyard. You can activate only 1 Circle of the Fire Kings per turn. So this right here is one of the fastest ways to get out this guy right here. Fire King High Avatar Garunix. Once you get him on the field, anytime he disappears, he pretty much comes back. Big pain in the ass. So it's really effective tribute. Like if he's in your graveyard and you can't bring him back for some reason, summon a crap fire monster you don't want and feed it to the graveyard. Use that, feed it, boom, bring him back out. And this right here is the main card, Onslaught of the Fire Kings, which is the reason why the structure deck is named Onslaught of the Fire Kings. If your opponent controls a monster and you control no monsters, special summon 1 Fire Beast, Beast Warrior, or Wing Beast typed monster from your deck. Its effects are negated and it's destroyed during the end phase. You can activate only 1 Onslaught of the Fire Kings per turn. So this is the key card to bringing out Garunix, because you activate this while your opponent has a monster and you don't. Summon Garunix, attack, do whatever, and the turn gets destroyed by this card's effect. Therefore, Garunix comes back to the field, destroys the entire field, and comes back, and you can do a super massive attack. So I think that was really all that this deck has to offer right now. There are 2 other Fire King monsters that really make this deck effective, plus like throw in 3 Rekindling, 3 Onslaught of the Fire Kings, at least 2 of the Circle of the Fire Kings. I would run 3 because it's such an effective card. And your basic traps and stuff, I would use 3 of each of the Fire King monsters if you're going for a Fire King deck, 3 of High Avatar Garunix, 3 of the other Fire King monsters, and Hazy Hippogriff because it's such a good monster. And that's pretty much all you need. Like, get your basic traps, like well, your basic traps that everybody uses. And I would use Royal Decree because this deck possibly doesn't need to run on that many traps, so I think using a Royal Decree in this deck would be really good. There's not any like real trap support yet for this deck, and I don't think that there's gonna be. But the cards that come like with it are right here. Let's see if we can get that focused in. Yeah, so this is what you get. You get like Manticore of Darkness, Goka, the Pirate of Malice, which is pretty good for the deck. But I'm made better on the dual network without it. So I don't know. I mean, if you can find a strategy to work that in, that'd be pretty cool if you could do that. But it comes with a lot of basic fire monsters. Spell cards comes with Pot of Duality, and I took those, put it in with my put it into my Machina deck, so you'll see the new updated tech for it later. It also comes with Backfire, Blast the Chain, Horn of Phantom Beast. Backfire is really cool because anytime a fire monster is destroyed, your opponent takes damage, so I think that's a good card to run. I would say like use 2 of them, you don't want any more than that. Spiritual Fire Art Kurenai. I tested this deck standard without like adding anything to it using the standard formula. Worked pretty okay. Didn't even end up using like pretty much any of the traps at all. I used like Call of the Haunted and Backfire, but that was pretty much it. Didn't use anything else. Spell cards I used like Pot of Duality. The Blaze Accelerator I didn't really use. I did use the Onslaught of the Fire Kings and Circle of the Fire Kings, which worked really well. After that, I put basically all the necessary cards in this deck together, combined it, and it ran pretty hot, ran pretty good. Definitely, if I could get all the required cards for this deck together, I think you would also, I think that I could make this deck really good, make it possibly one of the best new archetype decks. And I love archetype decks, and just using monsters specifically of that archetype, it kind of adds, and it adds a bit fun. Like, it adds more fun to me, like using the actual like archetype instead of like adding like other cards in, like Snowman Eater, DD Crow, like extra stuff. So I don't really believe in that. But anyways, guys, I will see you later on whatever it is next that I do something on. Peace out, YouTube.